Tonight it's kids only on Insight, talking about separation and divorce. And Sarah, I think we'd like to hear from you about an event that happened 6 or 7 years after your parents split up and that had a very big impact on you. Let's have a look.
Well, I can remember this front yard was probably the last place my parents actually had a conversation. It was more of an argument, but yeah, it was the last place that they talked, which was like 7 or 8 years ago, and I was probably about 6 or 7, and they had like a flaming argument right in this front yard. As I think the story was, like, my dad was picking me and my brothers up to go stay at his place for a few days. I have no idea what the argument was about, but after that my mum refused to speak to my dad, and that has been the case ever since. So it was quite a monumental day.
Sarah, 8 years of not talking.
Yeah.
Do they communicate at all with one another?
They occasionally write each other letters, but usually it's like, tell your dad, yada, 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 or tell your mum, yada, yada, yada. And so it's a bit difficult because it's like, because then you say, all right, dad said this, and then mum might get angry, and then it's like, well, I'm just the messenger. And then mum would often write letters and dad wouldn't reply, or like dad would write a letter and mum wouldn't reply, and it'd take like 3 weeks for some like small issue to be resolved where you could have just like had a phone call.
So what sort of messages do they relay through you?
About anything really. Like sometimes, often it was about finance and like child support, and oh my God, it's so not worth it. It's like, yeah. And,
what's it like for you, being the messenger? You describe yourself as the messenger. What's that like? What does it feel like?
It's annoying because you kind of feel like you're being used as the messenger, like, oh, I'm just the human telephone or something. And it's kind of difficult. Often, like, I would get a message wrong or something, or like, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what she said, or like, I wouldn't get the words exactly right, and then, I don't know, and then so you can get like all like cross communication.
You can get into all kinds of trouble, being in the middle. Does anyone else feel like a messenger? Hands going up everywhere. Yes.
Well, my parents do talk, but sometimes, like, I have to, like, notes or something, and I get them wrong, and then they get in late, and like my dad says, oh, take this to your mum's house, she can do this one, and then my mum says, oh, hasn't your dad filled this one out yet? I'm like, I get some things wrong that they tell me, and then they get mad at each other, and it's like all my fault, so I feel bad sometimes.
So that makes you feel like it's your fault?
Because, like, sometimes it's just little things like, tell dad that I'm picking up early, something like that, and then I forget to tell my dad, or I tell him the wrong time or something, and then my mum comes and he gets angry at her. And
so what do you want parents to do in that situation? What would you like your parents to do?
Well, I think they should just talk to each other, because it's probably better that they talk instead of us, because if you get it wrong, then they don't get mad at you, and then you feel bad for it.
Lynn? Yeah.
Well, I think for me that never really happened. My parents sort of went through the phase where they wanted me to be the messenger, where they'd be like, oh, tell your mum this, tell your dad this. But for me, I always pretty much told them to either man up or grow up. They used to always tell my brother and myself not to, play trivial games or do this, do that. So if they could tell us to do something like that, they should also be able to pass along their own messages. That way, if they screw up, then it's their problem. It's not blamed back on the kids.
And how did they react to you doing that?
I think it was sort of like a slap in the face, like, not literally, but for them it was reality, so I think it was good, because from that point on I never really got the can you tell your mum this, other than the occasional, oh, I can't pick you up till 7 or something, when it became necessary rather than just some stupid game.
Has anyone else had to get tough with their parents about this sort of, oh, hands up everywhere, yes, over here, yep.
Well, it was 7 years ago that my mum and dad split up, and it was just, my dad left to South America, haven't spoken to him for 6 years, and the first week that they split up, mum was like, tell your dad this, tell your mum that, and it was just so confusing, and I didn't know whether to go with my dad because he left the country, or stay with my mum. Like, me and my mum always had a good relationship, but dad left the house, and me and my brother, he was really little, so I had to look after him, look after my cousins, and explain to them. I was the one that had to explain that my mum was getting divorced. So it was a tough break, and I remember like calling my dad every week, and he wouldn't pick up the phone. He's like, I just don't want to talk to you. I don't want to do anything with you. And I was trying to, you know, get them back together, like work it out. You guys can do it, you know. So it was a tough messenger too.
So how did it turn out in the end?
Oh no, they haven't spoken for 6 years.
They haven't spoken for 6 years.
Nothing, not even a letter, phone call, nothing.
And that's what you really want? Is that what you want?
Well,
for them
I'm
to
happy
talk?
for my mum. She feels a lot happier without him. There was always violence in the house. Everyone was screaming at each other, and you know, me and my brother were always the quiet ones. We couldn't really react to that. We were too small, but it's better for my mum, I think. But I miss having a dad. I don't know what it's like anymore. So.
Do you understand why they don't talk to one another?
Well, it's like you were married for so long and you had children together, and yet you now can't engage in a conversation with each other. It's ridiculous. It's like, yeah, it is like, grow up. It's like, come on, you shared a bed and a house and everything with this person, and now you can't like face them at all, or even like see them on the other side of the road or something. It's like, come on.
Danielle?
With the messenger thing, my parents have always spoken pretty well with each other, but as I've gotten older, they've wanted me to take more responsibility with that and to be the messenger a little bit. But I'm so reluctant to, because it's a really hard job, as everyone has been saying. So, yeah, it's so much
how do you
easier
get
to just
out
talk.
of it, Danielle?
I honestly just say, can you please just call him? I can't remember what you're saying, you know. Or if I make a mistake, I'll use that as the example of why I don't want to do it again. Yeah.
Yeah, Ava, what did you want to say?
I agree. I think that if you can get married to this person and see yourself living with them for the rest of their lives, and they should just get over it and talk to each other. They should not have to put the kids in the middle of it. It's childish.
I'm interested in what you want to know and what you don't want to know in a breakup. I mean, what are the things that you want to know about your parents breaking up, and what's the stuff you don't want to know? Yep. Up the back, yes.
I like to know why they got divorced.
And do you?
Yeah. At first I only knew my mum's side, and then now that I'm older, I know dad's side as well. And that's what I like to know, but...
And has that affected how you feel about either of them?
Not really. It just sort of made me understand why they did it, but I was never angry at them or anything for it, so it just sort of made me see the other side of the story.
Tara, you had your hand up too. What do you want to know and not want to know?
Well, I think you want to know as much as you can, but you don't want to know if they've been if your dad's been abusing your mum or something. You don't want to know if they've been really hurting each other, but you do want to know as much information as you can, and that you want them to tell you stuff that's what's happening, not just go ahead and do it.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, I was always, because my mum always said I just didn't love him anymore. And I was always kind of like, okay, well, that's a pretty, I don't know, it seems like not that massive a reason to sort of leave, 2 children or whatever. But then, I was talking to her more recently, and she was saying that it was kind of like she felt that if she had have stayed with him and it was a relationship where my parents didn't really love each other, it would have been harder for us, because we would have been, say, I'm 19 now, and my parents would have grown up. I would have grown up all that time with them in a relationship that they weren't happy in, obviously. And she said that she thought it would be better to separate. And I sort of saw the point in that. And no. Up until then, I'd thought that it wasn't that good a reason. But I sort of saw a point more. So.
Hannah, what about you? Your parents separated when you were 4. What's your relationship like with both of them now?
I live with my mother, and so that's all right. I have a great relationship with her. My dad, on the other hand, he lives in Brisbane. We live here, and he, for the last couple of years, he hasn't really had anything to do with us. That's sort of because of me and my brother, because we stopped going up and seeing him. But that was because of the way he acted. He stopped paying child support a couple of years ago when we moved to Sydney. And and I don't know, I'm not very happy with my dad at the moment.
So what would you like him to do?
I don't really care anymore whether he does pay attention to us or not.
So you feel quite disconnected now?
Yeah.
Aoife, what about you? You didn't see your father for 8 years,
Yeah.
I think, after your parents separated. Then you went to see him in London when you were 12. Can you tell me what it was like when you first saw him again after all that time?
I was in shock. I was speechless, and I remember the first day I got there, I didn't look or talk to him or even acknowledge he was there for like the first 24 hours. I was disgusted and annoyed and angry and wanted revenge, and I was overwhelmed with emotion. It was different. And
So what happened? How did you work through that? Did you work through any of
yeah,
that?
Mum locked me and Dad in a room and kind of said, sort it out, this is stupid. You've been here for a week and you guys aren't talking. He's your dad.
Did she literally lock you in a room with him?
Well, she came in the room with us and she kind of pretty much locked the door and said, we're not leaving till you sort it out. And so we did, and now it's great, and I talk to him 2 or 3 times a week, and I see him once a year, and yeah.
Let's talk about a few practical things. Danielle, I know that you're quite happy with your new life in general, and I know there are little things that you want to talk about as well, but let's have a look at what you do every week.
I was about 8 years old when my parents separated, and ever since then, without fail, it's been every week changing, every Friday. When I'm here at my dad's house, I'm with my dad, my stepmom, and my sister, and then every Friday we'll say go to my mum's house, and there'll be my mum, my stepdad Wayne, and my little brother Tyson. These are my favourite clothes, the ones I'll take to mum's house. It's a bit stressful when I have homework and things having to pack to go to the next house, and I pack a lot of bags and have to think about what I have to take. Usually I just relax on a Friday evening because I have the whole weekend to do homework and things like that. Catch up with my little brother who misses me very much, and just speak with my stepmom and my dad and my mum. When I went to France on exchange last year, it was funny because I packed a suitcase and I took it over. Then they asked me to unpack it when I got there. I unpacked it a little bit, but I didn't unpack it all. And they asked me, why didn't you unpack it all? We asked you to. And I realised that I never fully unpacked everything that I had since my parents had separated, since I was 8, and had more or less been living out of a bag for those 8 or so years.
Danielle, what's it like moving between 2 worlds like that? And I'm sure a lot of you relate to this. What's it like?
It can be disruptive if it's irregular. It's not too bad because I'm really constant every week. But definitely with the routine, like stacking the dishwasher, like knowing where cups are and things, I get thrown sometimes.
Tim, what about you? You spend a couple of nights a week at Dad's and the rest of the time at Mum's. What's that like? How's that?
Well, you forget a lot of things you need the next day, and it takes a long time to adjust to the routine. I guess we've gone through quite a few ways of remembering stuff like schedules and diaries, but nothing really seems to have worked.
And what don't you like about moving? I know there are some things you don't like. You've got a puppy, yeah?
Yeah, I like animals, particularly dogs. I've got some at both houses. I miss them quite often, and I find that it's hard to adjust to one house and all the people and animals to the other.
Because it's a big change to be happening all the time, isn't it? Is there stuff you have to be careful about saying from one house to the other? I wonder how much care you all have to take with what you say and how you behave. Yep.
Yeah, you have to really be paying attention 110% of the time with what you're saying. I mean, like you can say things to your mum that you don't say with your dad, and you can say things to your dad that you don't say with your mum.
What sort of things?
Basically, you can say the really blokey sort of stuff with your dad, and then you can sort of joke around about it, or say if dad's put you in a bad mood or something, you can talk about it to mum, but then you can't sort of come back sometimes and still do the same thing with other people. But
so I'm just trying to get at what you mean here. You mean you've got to be careful about how far you go criticising the other parent, or? Yeah,
you sort of how far you go or what you say, and also I also felt like if I did enjoy myself like a lot doing something with, say, mum, I wouldn't want to come back to dad's and be like, yeah, we had an amazing time and all this sort of stuff, because you wouldn't want to make them, like the parents, feel like they're not good enough as well. Like what they do isn't fun and everything like that. So you are
It's a lot of stuff to be carrying around, particularly when you're little. Yeah, like
makes
if
you
you're
go up pretty
8,
fast.
9, 10, 11, or any age actually. But what about the rest of you? Are there things that you can and can't say, or that you feel you can't say? Yep.
Well, sometimes, like my dad, he has a new girlfriend, and they're like renovating, and I just told my mum that they're renovating, and I'm like, oh, I don't know if I should have told her that. And like with my dad's side of the family and my mum's grandpa just died, and like I told my dad, but he didn't tell anyone else, and she sort of wanted him to tell my grandma and stuff, because my grandma and my mum, they still like talk quite a lot and like come over and stuff. And with my auntie, she's just having a baby, and I'm not sure whether to tell my mum or not. Like, oh, I don't know if my dad wanted my mum to know that yet.
Okay, Danielle, what about you? Have you got to be careful? We saw a picture of your family. You look like it works pretty well. Do you still feel you've got to be a bit careful with some things?
Yeah, it's a horrible situation to be in if that's the case. I try and keep it to the minimum where I just be as honest as possible. And if one parent does say, don't tell your other parent this, I'll just be like, why? I probably can. Let's just sort this out. So, yeah, you just got to keep it to a minimum because it's really uncomfortable otherwise.
Got to keep those parents in line, I think. Coming up, we're going to hear what kids really think about step parents. That's next on Insight.